In today's Nonsense Wars production, I want to document my build of the Lindbergh Blue Devil Destroyer, a relatively old 1 to 125 scale model kit depicting the Fletcher class destroyer USS Melvin. I bought this from a local hobby shop in the mid 2010s, specifically because I saw the blurb about RC conversion. When I finished it, I did post some admittedly poor quality video to the channel, but unfortunately, I did not take any of the actual build process. I did keep the instructions, which seem like reprints of reprints, and the pictures and their contents somewhat date the kit. The steps use what look like photos of assemblies rather than more contemporary line drawings, and they have a bit of that vintage flavor. The depicted RC conversion does not show any sort of speed controller. Instead, it recommends a much more primitive servo and switch combination. The kit features a gearbox with a moderate reduction that also allows the motor to drive both propellers at the same speed. An optional attachment could turn the rudder in predetermined patterns such that the ship could drive squares or figure eights automatically. I never tried implementing this mechanism. It looked very flimsy, and I doubt it would have worked well on anything other than the calmest and smoothest of waters. I had to modify the drivetrain a bit from stock. The plastic gears and propellers did not grip the metal axles tightly, so I drilled them out and shimmed them with heat shrink tubing, eventually replacing the propellers altogether. This modification would not work well for high torque applications, but it has held up for this model. I applied an ample amount of grease to the various moving connections to try and minimize wear on all the plastic bearings. The propeller shafts run through two long packing boxes, which help keep water out of the hull. I filled them with grease and sealed them with hot melt. This actually worked better than I remembered, allowing very little leakage during a 30-minute run. I also used hot melt for some mechanical fittings where, in theory, I could heat the adhesive and pull the joint apart for maintenance. I assembled the rest of the model using various plastic cements, thinner where parts fit well, and thicker where they did not. Some of the seams lined up pretty poorly, all the more evident on such a large model. The railings did not even get a mold. Instead, they consist of real thread glued to tiny slots on tens of fiddly little posts. The kit uses paper for the various signal flags, and I used metal wire for the limited amount of rigging, though I don't quite remember why. I colored the black and red sections of the hull the same way I did them for my 1 to 350 scale Fletcher, perhaps even with the exact same paints. The generic gray I sprayed on the rest of the model applied pretty well, but the white and black acrylics I painted on some details applied less well. I did not apply any weathering at all. Anything that looks like it comes from real debris buildup from actual running. Speaking of running, the transmitter and receiver come from an Aries RC plane. This relatively modern 2.4 gigahertz system works much better than my older Futaba equipment. More on that in a future video. I bought the waterproof ESC specifically for use in boats, and it drives a Mabuchi RC280SA motor rated for 11,000 RPM at 9 volts. This drives the ship at a seemingly realistic pace, though I have not managed to calculate the corresponding scale speed. A super small, super cheap servo turns the, as far as I can tell, completely not prototypical dual rudders. In the stock configuration, the guns connect to the automatic steering mechanism, but I managed to connect them to a second small and cheap servo. Unfortunately, the front and rear turrets turn in different directions, and they only traverse a very limited arc, but I like this feature just for its novelty. The included electrical system used 6C batteries, which helped ballast and level the vessel. Currently, I use a much more modern 7.2 volt NIMH, which needs perfect centering to trim the hull and doesn't quite provide as much ballast. As such, the hull rides pretty high in the water and heels significantly in sharp turns and slight breezes. Still, I think the high freeboard does help recover some stability, and I only worry a little about capsizing. Of course, I have to mention the stickers. These come from one of my favorite late 2000s anime, Lucky Star, and I applied them to mix hobbies and add a bit more cosmetic customization. I laser printed them on transparent adhesive paper, and they have held up even better than the also laser printed pennant numbers. On that note, this is the end of the video. Please consider subscribing if you like what we do, and have a nice day.
Are you slowing down? Or is it slowing down? Oh no. Okay, try to run the props. Is it only one side that's running?
Yeah.
So the other side is basically on. Oh, I see. It pulled out the power shaft. Do the rudders?
Those are good still.
Okay, so that's still okay.